Greetings. I'm excited to share this bonus content on Social Security claiming strategies for divorced individual filers. Now, as we think about this, there's really two components of this: the mathematical side of things, where we look at projections and how much income is coming in particular years and what the best strategy will be. And then secondarily, the psychological component of claiming benefits and what that looks like. So first, the mathematical side of things. As I alluded to in that core content Social Security video of how benefits are calculated and when they can be claimed, you can claim benefits as early as age 62 or as late as age 70. Now, your full retirement age is somewhere between age 66 and age 67, depending on your birth date. If we think about claiming early, if your full retirement age is at age 67, and in this example, the benefit would be $1,500, then you can claim early as age 62 and have benefits that would have a 30% haircut applied to those. So $1,050 on a month-to-month basis versus $1,500 if you deferred those 5 years. Now, if you defer out to age 70 and your full retirement age is 67, then you have an even higher benefit because you have deferred credits of 8% per year after your full retirement age. So the differential there is substantial between claiming at age 62 and age 70, that 8-year time frame. You can see a 77% increase in benefits over that time if you defer. Now, if we think about just the simplest form of this analysis, it would be this break-even analysis that we would come back to. Let's say we have an individual, Joe, and he's thinking about his benefits. If he claims at age 62, those benefits start to come in immediately, of course. If he defers out to age 70, he has 8 years where he's not getting a benefit, but when he does start getting the benefit at age 70, of course, those benefits are higher. So if we know that Joe is going to pass away around age 70, then he should claim benefits as early as possible at age 62. If we know by contrast that he's going to be living out to age 100, it would be preferable to defer to claim at age 70 and then have a much higher level of benefit thereafter for the next 30 years. So this is that dynamic that we want to highlight. Usually it's around age 81, 82. There's a break-even point where it doesn't really matter based on the total benefit, whether they claim at 62 or whether they claim at 70. So we'll come back to this idea of a break-even piece as after we think about the longevity here. So for a gentleman age 62, you can see that these percentages apply, or this is the statistics that we would look at with respect to life expectancy. So 93% of gentlemen who attain the age of 62 are going to get to 67. 87% are going to get to age 70. 70% are going to get to age 77. 57% to 81, and 22% to 90. Now, this is, again, the general population. As I talked with actuaries over time, their feedback has been that I really need to add 4 or 5 years to a typical situation here when looking at the clientele that we serve, because we serve folks, generally speaking, that have a higher level of affluence than the average population. They have better access to healthcare, and they have a higher level of education. So that trifecta there means that we typically, on a base case level, need to be adding 4 or 5 years. So if we're doing that for an individual age 62, a gentleman, there's probably about a 70% chance that he gets into his early 80s. If we think about ladies at age 62, if we go out to age 67, probably 96% chance or so that they get to 67, 92% chance to 70, 80% chance to 77, 69% chance to 81, and 33% chance out to age 90. So again, if we add 4 or 5 years in those circumstances, there's probably about an 80% chance that someone who attains the age of 62, who's a female, gets out to her early 80s. There to close to that break-even point that I just alluded to. So a high likelihood for gentlemen and ladies on that core level. Now, of course, as we have conversations with clients, we're always coming back to, what's your current health and how long do your people tend to live? What's that background as well? Because those are two additional data points that we look at. So someone who's in reasonably good health and has his or her people living a long time historically, we look at that and add a few years there typically. For someone who maybe has had difficult health challenges, has an illness that may shorten life expectancy, then we want to adjust the plan accordingly there as well. Now, if we take these pieces together and then we think about not just a break-even analysis where we look at the total benefits on a nominal basis, but we also adjust those for time value of money, because early benefits theoretically should be more valuable than benefits down the road, because you receive them and then you'd be able to do something with them, or would be able to buy more perhaps with them with inflation adjustments. You could see that maybe age 81 understates the break-even point a little bit, but I would suggest that that expected annual rate of return, or the discount rate that we should apply, shouldn't be more than about 3 or 4%. So again, that would push us out to maybe age 82, 83, if we think about that break-even level. To be able to give an example of this, if you could get 100% rate of return, why, take those benefits as early as possible, because they're going to double every year. Of course, none of us is going to get that 100% rate of return there. But if we could, we want to claim the benefits as early as we can. If we think about the ground rules here that are important to know as a divorced individual filer, to be able to claim a spousal benefit as a divorced individual, you need to have been married a total of at least 10 years to the person that you'd like to claim benefits on. Of course, can't be currently married. And then the same benefit amounts and reductions apply for claiming early as a current spouse. So you have a more significant haircut if you're claiming for a spousal benefit and you claim early. We'll talk through that a little bit more. And then finally, if you have less than 2 years since your divorce date, then you may have some restrictions in terms of being able to file independently. Now, if you've been divorced at least 2 years, then it doesn't matter what's going on with your ex-spouse there. You are independently entitled at that point. So whatever you claim, or whatever direction you choose, it's not going to impact your ex-spouse's benefits at all, regardless of whether you claim early or late. It won't impact their capacity to claim. And your ex-spouse is not notified by Social Security when you claim, so there's no feedback to that individual from the institution of whether you've claimed or not. So coming back to that spousal benefit, again, if you were married at least 10 years prior to the divorce, then you have that capacity typically to be able to claim on a spousal benefit. But if you do so, you can see the chart here, you get less if you claim earlier, and you get less at a more significant rate there than if you claim earlier. The same thing we want to be able to highlight here is that it's very important that you don't get the deferred credits on a spousal benefit. So a spousal benefit, you would be entitled to up to 50% of the primary insurance amount of your ex-spouse, but that spousal benefit will not grow beyond your full retirement age. So let's say you were married for 15 years, ended up getting a divorce, your ex-spouse's primary insurance amount is $3,000 on a month-to-month basis, and yours is $1,000 on a month-to-month basis. You would be entitled to have a spousal benefit on based on your ex-spouse's earnings history. Now, that spousal benefit would be a maximum of half of their primary insurance amount, so it would be $1,500 as a primary insurance amount. That would be above and beyond the $1,000 that you have. And so what happens there is Social Security kind of makes up the difference. So you get your benefit, and then you get another $500 in that example to get you halfway up to the to your ex-spouse's benefit there. So what we have here, Austin, if you'll cut some of that out, I didn't know where I was going there. What I want to highlight here is that you're also entitled to a survivor benefit if your ex-spouse has passed away. So again, you need to have been married for 10 years or more prior to your divorce. You must not be remarried prior to age 60. And then okay, I'm going to need to reshoot this part too. So I want to walk through some ground rules for survivor benefits for an ex-spouse. First, again, you would need to have been married for 10 years or more prior to the divorce. Your ex-spouse would need to have passed away. So this is one time when they actually would have had to have passed away. That does impact your capacity to claim at this elevated level of survivor benefit. You also must be unmarried unless you remarried after reaching age 60. And then finally, the benefit amount is the same as the surviving spouse type of benefit would be. So the surviving spouse benefit is typically the full amount of the deceased spouse's benefit. So this is one of those interesting elements that if your spouse was still alive, I need to go reshoot this, Austin, sorry. So a few ground rules for survivor benefits. First, you need to have been married for at least 10 years, again, to have a survivor benefit on an ex-spouse. You have to be unmarried unless you remarried after reaching age 60. And the benefit amount is the same as it would be if you were a surviving spouse. So this is one of those circumstances where your ex-spouse's life matters with respect to the benefit that you would receive. If your ex-spouse were to be alive, then you would have a spousal benefit that would be a maximum of 1/2 of their primary insurance amount. Whereas this benefit actually is tied to the benefit that they would be receiving at the time of their passing away, which could be far higher and would be based on whether they had claimed early or deferred credits there. So this can be a much higher benefit there overall. And this surviving spouse benefit would be one that gives you an enhanced level of flexibility. So it can be taken as early as age 60, or it can be taken at any point in time thereafter. So sometimes we will find that you could claim it as early as age 60, defer the credits on your earnings history, allow those to accrue out to age 70, and have a much higher individual benefit for you. In some circumstances, we would actually see the benefit be higher if you took benefits based on your own earnings history earlier, and then took the benefit based on your ex-spouse at your full retirement age at age 66 or 67. So we come back to really needing to dive in and to do some analysis of these key pieces if you have an ex-spouse that's passed away. If you have an ex-spouse that is alive and you need to claim a spousal benefit on that, then that's possible as well. Again, there are some ground rules that we've just walked through there. If you're relying on your own earnings history, then it's straightforward in terms of your benefit claiming. We're just mainly looking at the break-even analysis that we talked about there at the outset. So with that, that's the mathematics of it. We can come up with that plan. The second thing I want to highlight, though, is that there's also a psychological component to claiming Social Security benefits. And I would liken this to kind of the adult version of that study that's famous from the 1960s at Stanford, where you had Walter Mischel do a set of analysis or conducting an experiment ultimately on elementary school kids. Not in a nefarious way, but in, gosh, I'm going to frame this differently. So that's the mathematics of this. We look at the optimal strategy and try to make sense of that with you and incorporate that to a financial plan. One other element, though, is the psychological component. And we kind of think about this as the adult version of delayed gratification. There's a famous study out in 1960s done by Walter Mischel at Stanford University, where he basically took elementary school kids and told them that he was going to leave the room. He put a marshmallow in front of them and said that they could either have the marshmallow whenever they wanted to, or if they could wait 15 minutes, when he came back, he would give them 2 marshmallows that they could enjoy at that point. So it wasn't an easy thing for a lot of kids to be able to delay that gratification. And in the same way, it's difficult for us to be able to delay that income, Social Security. There's all kinds of different things that we might tell ourselves, even if we know that we have longevity on our side, that why should we defer these benefits? We need to address those, because this can be a decision that might be a 6-figure decision for someone. It might be over $100,000 in terms of the amount more that they could receive if they deferred benefits, if they have a long life expectancy. So we come back to oftentimes helping them kind of grapple with the trade-offs there. Now, there's another couple of factors in play here, because usually if you defer Social Security benefits, your long-term tax picture actually improves, believe it or not. And secondarily, if you defer Social Security benefits and you take distributions maybe from other places, or use other assets that you have in the near term, what you're actually doing is providing greater solidity for the plan in the long term, oftentimes, because there is a wider range of outcomes in your investment returns over a 25 or 30-year basis rather than over the next 5 years. So if you're taking investments out, if you're taking distributions at a higher level over the next few years, because you can defer Social Security so that you can defer Social Security, then what you're doing is you're taking those resources out, and there's a greater level of certainty in all likelihood of where those resources are at. If we flip the situation and instead you take Social Security as early as you can, and now you have a lower Social Security benefit going into the future, then you have to take more later on from other accounts. So if you have to take more 15, 20, 30 years down the road, then you're taking more from assets that we have less certainty. We have a wider range of returns and a wider range of outcomes. So that's another one of the parts that if we can defer Social Security benefits, it actually provides a greater solidity to the plan in many ways, because our distributions come in the near term at a higher level rather than over the long term quite as much. So with that, I hope this has been a helpful educational piece. This is not speaking to any one particular situation, and certainly take this with a grain of salt. Do talk with your financial advisor if you're working with our team. Of course, please do provide your Social Security statement and benefit projections if you've not already done so. Thanks so much for joining me on this bonus content. If you have questions, reach out to us and we'll do our best to get back with you. Take care.
This content was provided by Retirement Planning Services. We're in Knoxville, Tennessee, and you can visit our website at www.seriousretirement.com. The information in this recording is intended for general educational and informational purposes only and should not be construed as investment advisory, financial planning, legal, tax, or other professional advice based on your specific situation. Please consult with your professional advisor before taking any action based on its contents.